Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to theCUBE's live coverage of the Snowflake Summit here at the Moscone Center in San Francisco. I'm your host, Rebecca Knight, alongside Dave Vellante, co-founder, co-CEO of theCUBE. I would like to welcome our next guest to the show. We have Christina Egea, Senior Vice President, Product Enterprise Data at Capital One. Welcome, Christina.
Thanks, I'm so excited to be here with y'all.
And Prasanna Krishnan, Head of Catalog, Horizon Catalog and Collaboration at Snowflake. Thank you so much, Prasanna, for coming back on the show.
Thank you for having me, really excited.
Yeah. So, Christina, Capital One operates in one of the most highly regulated environments in the world. You've been partnering with Snowflake for over a year now to make data sharing come to life. Talk a little bit about what's been made possible through that partnership, the partnership itself, and then what's that's really unlocked.
Absolutely, I mean, as you say, right, for anyone that's in the financial services industry, we have a tremendous number of partners that we have to work with and share data with to run the core of our business, how we market, how we service, how we run transactions, and so data sharing is a critical part of our business, and doing it securely is like of the utmost priority. And so we've had a great partnership with the Snowflake team, leveraging their sharing capabilities that really put us in a spot to understand at the most granular of levels what data is going in and out of the company, how it's being accessed, and best of yet, not have to make extra copies of data along the way while keeping control over the data we have. And so it's been a great partnership, and we've been able to sort of not only leverage the native capabilities of Snowflake, but meet all of our reporting and oversight and monitoring obligations, which is a huge win for us and a big unlock for our businesses because it's such a intuitive and kind of easy to use interface and experience.
Prasanna, you've extended Horizon so much in the last few years. Iceberg open table formats have obviously been a big factor. You shared yesterday with the analyst community open sharing for Iceberg data, governed access for external engines, connecting to the full data estate, read-write capabilities, context that you're bringing in, intent-driven governance, which was kind of really exciting. What are some of your favorite innovations that you told us off camera, you were adding right even at the last minute, they were production ready, so you announced them, or at least in preview. Take us through those innovations.
Yeah, we've had a ton happening on Horizon Catalog. I think of Horizon Catalog is really that context and governance layer that connects all of your enterprise's data with AI, right? To make it actionable to AI with context and governance ensured as part of the platform. And so, the announcements that we had today kind of were across the board on a few different pillars. The first is enabling you to connect all of your enterprise data and metadata wherever it lives, right? So don't copy or move around the data. If it's in Iceberg, if it's in, you have metrics in a Power BI dashboard, we can pull all of that metadata to help create this context layer that then enables Cortex to be able to give you much richer insights and actions that are grounded in your enterprise's data and context. And then the third important piece is governance. But the thing that I'm most excited about is really how simple we've made both the context and the governance using AI as part of how Horizon does its job. And so if you think about catalogs, traditionally, a lot of the catalogs have suffered from a lot of manual work that needs to go into setting up governance and setting up the metadata context. And with Horizon, we're really automating all of that. So just tell us what your intent is. This is the intent-driven governance, and we'll enforce it for you and keep it enforced using Coco.
And not only can you do something like you said you can read from Power BI, but you can also update as well, right? This is a bi-directional world, which is critical. I mean, a couple of years ago, that wasn't possible.
Yeah.
You had this sort of halfway house. What has that meant for?
Well, I think that's right. I also think one of the key things that I think you're honing in on is so much of the challenge in large enterprises is the toil of governance. And the fact that we can point the amazing unlock, especially with some of the latest LLMs that Snowflake has access to, they are so good at the semantic business context and reasoning, and it puts you in a spot where not only is the effort way lower, but you open the aperture of who can use these tools and who can access data insights in an unbelievable kind of way. It makes data so much more accessible to the whole enterprise, which is a wildly powerful unlock, I think, for all of us.
Because you trust it, and then you can...
Yeah, you trust it, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's reading facts, right? It's reading your data, it's reading your code bases. It's not asking questions of people and hearing their responses. It's factually grounded in how the business runs.
Well, I was just going to say, I love the way you describe it as the toil of governance, and yet it is absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
This is your financial data, financial information.
It is a huge constraint on how much data you can have, is how effectively can you operate it at scale, and it limits what you can do, because you have to be able to evidence and prove it, and being able to automate that stuff confidently, reliably, consistently, it's a hugely powerful capability.
So who does this matter to inside of Capital One? Is it the audit? Is it the legal? All of the above, I mean, the business? Who's paying most attention, and sort of your overlords, if you will?
I mean, I always feel like I'm so lucky to work at a company where there isn't a soul, and I think you've experienced this at the company, that doesn't care about data, which therefore is like a beautiful opportunity, and therefore means I have a bunch of demanding customers across the enterprise, and we've really taken a posture from the jump that we want to democratize data across the enterprise. These capabilities really allow that, with strong central enterprise governance. And this just continues to allow us to scale that model across the entire organization.
So the interesting thing about Capital One, that your relationship goes back a number of years. I think the booth is right there.
Yeah.
So not only are you a customer,
that's right,
but you actually built a product internally and then started to sell it externally. And I think you've advanced the capabilities there. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it's totally exciting. I mean, I think one of the best parts of some of the partnership we've had has been being able to be customers of the product, being able to build products internally that help us manage Snowflake, and then as a financial services provider, being able to externalize some of those offerings to customers here and continue to work with Snowflake on the flip side then as a partner in this amazingly exciting marketplace.
So do you standardize essentially on Horizon and sort of mandate that everything inside of Snowflake is Horizon? You're not, I mean, there's a lot of catalogs out there. Maybe there's some dispersion and some siloing, but is that the direction that you're going, is to sort of have that Horizon umbrella? Or is it still sort of fragmented?
We have an enterprise solution for broadly our cataloging, of which many of the capabilities within Horizon are an important component, but we do have an overarching solution that's homegrown that we built out over time that a bunch of the Snowflake capabilities then plug into. That is sort of the initial front door for the broader set of platforms in our ecosystem, and then we benefit from the capabilities like Snowflake sharing that we talked about, like some of the various metadata management capabilities that Snowflake offers.
Is that custom capability that you've developed a competitive differentiator still, or is it less and less so, and Horizon will pick up more and more of that functionality over time?
It's a good question. I think, ultimately, there's a bunch changing in this space all the time. The destination for us, right? As you talked about, how many new features launched yesterday across the product suite? I think the destination for us is going to continue to have a unified layer for our customers, and honestly, a bunch of the experiences that users have with data are changing right now. It used to be you had to go to a catalog to go find data. Now you can open up a chat interface like you were talking about before. You don't even need to care really what catalog stuff is in or isn't. You need those capabilities under the hood to make those interfaces powerful, but I think the momentum is moving that way. We'll continue to leverage capabilities like catalogs to help us stay organized, to help us stay well managed, but I think the interface in a bunch of places is actually moving, and that's, I think, super exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, that's the abstraction that you've built, the simplification that you were talking about, because 2 years ago, that's all we were talking about, is how this works, and is it bi-directional, and what if I go outside, and Polaris, and now you've really resolved a lot of that and hidden that complexity from the customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way customers are consuming these insights and taking actions has completely changed in the last year, right? Like you said, 100%. It's no longer writing SQL or pointing and clicking on a UI. It's just having a conversation and being able to use Cowork or Coco as a builder to be able to do those actions with just English prompts. And so I think definitely we see our partnership with Capital One continuing to evolve as we leverage these new capabilities.
So Prasanna, you've also introduced a bunch of new security capabilities, agent identity, AI security, posture management, protections against prompt injections. Why is now the right moment for those?
Yeah, absolutely. So ultimately what our customers like Capital One want to do, as Christina was saying, is enable everyone in the company, right, to be able to go ask a question, like who are our customers at greatest risk of churning in Europe? And now to answer that question, you need all the context and governance we talked about, but when you're having agents take those actions and answer questions for you, you also need really strong security. And that's why for our customers, it's really crucial to enable them to ensure that there is strong security and governance when agents are acting on all of this data. So things like having agent identity so that you can set up policies for what agents should and shouldn't be able to do, and also be able to audit it, right? You want to be able to tell apart when something was taken by a human user versus an action that was taken by an agent. And then having new vectors of security threats now with agents and having ways to protect against those with things like prompt injection and being able to have AI guardrails, those become really important now.
Yeah.
There's so much here. One of our analysts back in Massachusetts just wrote a post, I'm just looking on our site, why is Snowflake talking about ransomware at an AI conference? Well, it says part of it's Horizon catalog and the security portfolio. There's so much in there that you have to think about. And so, little roadmap, if you will, done a lot. What's next? What would you like from Prasanna that maybe you can't have today?
Well, I think on the security point, I think the macro thing that many companies are working through, and Snowflake is like at the tip of the spear on providing solutions for this, is that our existing ecosystem was generally not built for these agentic capabilities. And so the point you just made of like, we have to separate the identity and the access for an agent versus a human is like a machine, a pretty fundamental change to how a lot of our enterprise ecosystem was built until 12 months ago at best, right?
Yeah.
And so that is like a meaningful shift in how we want to manage our capabilities, how we want to manage our infrastructure. I think the capabilities that Snowflake is coming up with absolutely enable that. And just generally moving towards more policy-driven, automated access management, getting smarter. And then ultimately that intent-driven development is really critical, knowing that we want to not only be supporting and augmenting humans, but building agents that can perform tasks. So I think many of the things are out there in the roadmap, and it's a matter of like how we harden them. And also, as customers, like, we can't ship every feature all at once to all of our customers. So how do we then stage like the set of capabilities we're enabling across the enterprise?
What's the saying? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So what Christina was just talking about with identity, do you think about that as I presume you do, as a data problem?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. I mean, ultimately, we are providing you a platform that enables you to bring AI to governed data with access to all the applications and tools that you need to take actions, right? And have Cowork and Coco be the orchestrators that are bringing all this together. So really, it's data and AI need to meet, and that's what we're enabling.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking about it. If I don't necessarily want to do that at the agent level. I'd much rather do it at the data level because the data is ultimately, Christina's going, maybe not. Maybe you're saying
depends.
both.
I think it depends right on the use case. It
Yeah.
depends, because it depends on, in some cases, the appropriateness of the data is driven totally by the usage. And like the same data is totally good for one use case and not good for another. In other cases, the data itself is wildly sensitive and should always be protected. So I think that's some of like the crux of the complexity to be managed in that ecosystem.
Because you're saying you don't want to necessarily overprotect because there's an expense of doing that, or overgovern, or?
No, really just saying that in some cases, the same data that is perfectly accessible for, say, like a marketing use case is not accessible at all to like a servicing use case, or more likely the inverse of like the data we use for service, we actually can't market on that thing. And so it drives a bunch of governance that is targeted at the user, and now that user is an agent or an agent on behalf of a person, you have like a much more complicated scheme to kind of manage.
The permutations in that matrix.
Totally, yeah.
And you may want to enforce what a given agent can do in terms of like which MCP endpoints can it access, right? Now that has nothing to do with the data, it's more you're governing the actions that the agent can take.
Totally. Like you might be okay that one analyst has the ability to modify a table, but you might super not want to give that permission to an agent, at least not till you're really sure how it's going to operate.
So Christina, looking ahead, what do you think this partnership with Snowflake will unlock for your customers today and even in the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, I would start by, I feel like every year I feel like there couldn't be a better time to be in this space, and now I really feel like that. Like, I mean, it feels like ultimately where things are going, as you've been saying, are all this stuff coming together, our data getting closer to our AI, getting closer to our business, and ultimately the unlock for us has always been, how do we just make better decisions all the time? And we are able to do that more now than we've ever done before, and I think in 6 months we'll be amazingly impressed by how much more integrated this ecosystem is and the business results that it drives.
What's next for you, Prasanna? You guys put so much effort into these events, but okay. Now, second half of the year's coming.
Chop, chop.
What's on your agenda?
Continue, operating at the crazy speed at which we have been, shipping capabilities that our customers can leverage to drive the outcomes that they care about, right? Take better business decisions and take actions, and do all of that with security and governance. Yeah.
Great, a great note to end on. Christina and Prasanna, thank you both so much. A great conversation.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you again.
Bet.
I'm Rebecca Knight for Dave Vellante. Stay tuned for more of theCUBE's live coverage of the Snowflake Summit. You're watching theCUBE, the leader in enterprise tech news and analysis.